Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic, host of Bachelorette Recap, a guy's review. We just finished recapping week 3 of Katie Thurston's season of The Bachelorette. It's heating up. From a lot of people I'm talking to, they're saying it's one of the best seasons they've ever watched. There's drama, but it's not gratuitous. There's good conversations happening, Katie setting boundaries, and this episode did not disappoint. Now, this video, trigger warning, is about sexual assault, and we are going to talk about Katie's sort of tell-all that she had in this past episode where she was paired up with Nick Viall, and they did a round chair kind of setup with a bunch of guys to get things off of their chest. What are they not proud about? Ghosting, jealousy, cheating, whatever the situation may be. Now's a chance to get it off your chest. A lot of people were cynical about this because it's like, oh, come on, Nick Viall's not a trained therapist. What are they going to, like, this is a little bit of a dangerous scenario, and it is, and I think they did a good job of navigating through it all. After all the guys shared their story, Katie shared hers, and the title here is The Bachelorette's Katie Thurston. I was involved in a situation where there wasn't consent. This is a touchy subject, of course, for primetime TV, but a good one to be talked about. Of course, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, and just talking about scenarios that aren't always peachy and perfect can really show others that they're not alone, and it can show survivors and victims that there is a community that's willing to share their story. It's kind of a pleasant part of the Me Too movement that people are sharing their voice, talking about things, and owning up to a situation that happened to them as the victim. You know, a lot of people carry that burden, and as she had mentioned, she carried a lot of that burden. We'll talk about it right here. So let's get right into it. And of course, please, in the comment section, be as respectful as possible to this conversation as we have it. So she did a Glamour interview. I'm going to just read parts of it, but we'll catch you guys up if you didn't watch last night's episode. In an exclusive interview, The Bachelorette opens up with Glamour about why it was important to share her past experience on the reality show. That is not something I wish upon anybody. So, on the episode last night, The Bachelorette, Katie Thurston, opened up about a past non-consensual sexual encounter she experienced. The moment happened while on a group date hosted by former Bachelor Nick Viall, in which the guys are asked to reveal intimate secrets about their past relationships. It turns into a difficult but cathartic session, which prompts Thurston, who had been lauded for being so sex positive, to discuss a painful experience of her own. I was involved in a situation where there wasn't consent, and that is not something I wish upon anybody. I was in denial about what happened, so much so that I tried to form a relationship with him because I didn't want to believe what actually happened to me. She goes on to say that as a result, she ended up having an unhealthy relationship with sex in the years that followed. I didn't want to have sex. I didn't like talking about sex, and it's taken me a long time to get to where I am now, loving myself and accepting things I can no longer control. That is a brave woman. That is a person who's done the work to realize the trauma, and for her to talk about it on this platform, it's very selfless, to be honest. She doesn't have to share her story, and a lot of victims don't. And for her to do that on a platform that you know is going to obviously make headlines, it is a cross she is bearing here. 3 days before the episode aired on ABC, Katie Thurston spoke to Glamour West Coast editor Jessica Radloff about why she chose to share something so private on national television and the lessons she hopes viewers take away from the episode. As heartbreaking as these stories are, we are healing and starting conversations so we can move forward, she says. All right, so let's get right into that. Glamour says, when you were going into this group date, what did you plan on sharing? Katie Thurston said the date was initially going to be about spilling the tea, finding out what's in the DMs, what's the gossip about these men, what exes are coming forward, etc. But the whole date shifted completely. Going into it, I was probably going to share something surface level. I don't really have dark relationship secrets like that. I date pretty serious and long term, so I was like, I don't know what to share. But as each guy opened up more and more, I felt compelled to be vulnerable with them and share that story. You also mentioned not even your mom knew what happened. How soon after this episode filmed did you tell her? Honestly, I held off for a little bit. When you get home from the experience, there's just so much happening. There was a point where I wondered if my story was even going to be shown because it's kind of a heavy topic for family television. Once I got the confirmation that yes, that was going to be shared, I will say the producers did ask me if I was comfortable with that. I did have the option to not have that aired. I felt it was important to share my story, to start these conversations with the viewers, whether they've experienced it themselves or to educate people on what consent really means. You know, the show does a good job, whether it means to or not, of creating a dialogue in this country. It is a water cooler and a stage for everyone to share stories, whether it be about jealous, toxicity, whatever the case may be. We see it on the TV, we talk about it. So And also kudos to the producers for asking her if she wanted this to be part of her story that is shown on the screen here. I am starting to see that there is a shift with the Bachelor storytelling. We'll have to see how that goes throughout the season. But so far, there has been real earnest conversation and a willingness to ask Katie what she wants the season to, what she wants to come of the season. You know what I mean? Let me know in the comment section if you agree, if you think there's any difference in the storytelling from seasons past. You know, they can't redo Matt James' season. They botched it. They can't redo some other seasons that they botched. But moving forward, good signs. It was only 2 weeks ago, she said, that I told my mom because I knew this episode was coming up and I didn't want her to find out on TV. I think as a mother, it was hard for her to feel like she couldn't be there for me or that she didn't feel like a safe space for me. A lot of parents, I think, are uncomfortable talking about sexual experiences with their teenagers, and if you don't, then you're going to have problems going forward. Did you feel better about having told her? It's a weird thing to navigate because it happened so long ago, so there's nothing we can do to resolve it. We just talked about it, but that allowed her to open up about her experiences growing up. I think what's going to happen with this episode is so many people are going to come forward with their own stories. Hopefully we can all learn from it and just be better as individuals when it comes to consent and sexual experiences. You mentioned in the episode that you tried to form a relationship with this individual around the time that the encounter happened. Some people may not understand why, but what have you learned about that? I think people don't want to fail, so they do what they can to feel like they did not fail in whatever way that is. For me, in that moment, I felt like I had failed in protecting myself and in standing up for myself. I wanted to make it feel like it wasn't a failure. I wanted to make it feel like it was intentional. Like, yeah, we both wanted this because we were heading into a relationship. So you try and cope and make it feel like it was okay. It's unfortunate that that was how I was trying to cope. It's a survival instinct. You also mentioned you were drinking, which made you feel like you were also to blame. Why was that important for you to share? It was hard. In the beginning, I did feel responsible because I had been drinking and we were in a situation where we weren't in a bed together, but there was never the conversation about birth control, condoms, our relationship status. My underwear remained on. That's the biggest thing where it's so obvious looking back that that was not okay. Verbal consent is so important. Even if you're giving consent while under the influence of drugs or alcohol, it's probably not actual consent. That's the thing that people need to learn and be respectful of. What advice do you have on how to talk about consent when you are in the moment? What people need to remember is that if you're uncomfortable having that conversation, then you're probably not ready to be having sex with that person to begin with. If you have a good relationship with this person where even if it's casual, romantic, whatever, you should be comfortable to say, are you okay having sex? Do you want to have sex? Should we have sex? Then the conversation of, should we use a condom? Do you have a condom? If you're not having those conversations or you don't feel comfortable doing that, then how are you comfortable having sex with this person? What do you credit for your being able, to have this perspective now? I didn't go to therapy. I wish I did. I think I could have recovered a lot sooner. It took me years of self-reflection. I had failed relationship after failed relationship from that incident and finally realized what was the problem. A lot of it was rooted in sex and not having a healthy relationship with sex or communicating about sex. The older I got and the more failed relationships I had, I thought, what am I doing wrong? How can I fix this? That's really when I was like, okay, I need to be comfortable talking about sex. That is the root issue that I was personally having in my relationships. Once I started talking about it, people would come forward and talk about their stories. I brought it up in very humorous ways to make it comfortable and natural. Once I started doing that, my whole perspective in life shifted. Even my relationships, in terms of having a healthy relationship with sex, all shifted for the better. But it took a long time. Did you turn to any books or resources along the way? No, and that's the unfortunate part. There are so many resources out there, and that's what I'm really excited about with this episode, educating people on how to get that help. I lost so much time in trying to navigate that on my own. Had I known where to go or that it was a common experience, I could have learned a lot quicker. I could have grown from it a lot quicker. But having the PSA for RAINN.org, Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, which is the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization, on the screen after that scene was such a great way to turn something so negative for me into a positive move forward. After the group date ended, did you have any additional conversations with the guys? Some of those conversations do continue throughout the season, which is great. We opened up, and it's something that's so impactful to them with their experiences. It's great to be able to talk about it so freely. Do you feel a sense of pride in knowing you will help others by sharing your experience? Sometimes you don't realize how impactful something can be, even in this moment. I haven't felt it yet, but I know it's coming. In some ways, it's going to be heartbreaking to hear all these people who have relatable experiences, but also as a community, we're all supporting each other. We are healing and starting conversations so that we can move forward and hopefully educate everyone on what it means to have consent. Will you be watching Monday night, or is this still too raw? I watch every episode alone because I need to process it and dissect. I have seen this one, but I will watch it again. I like to watch it with Bachelor Nation and be part of those conversations as it's going on. In going forward, what have you learned after something so difficult? I've learned sex is an equal agreement, even if you do have consent. When I was trying to recover from that incident, I would force myself to want to have sex with my partner because I wanted to meet their needs, but I wasn't wanting to have sex. You create this unhealthy relationship with sex by not making it an equal two-way street. I think the simplest way to put it is that it has to be both parties agreeing and wanting to have sex in order to have that healthy relationship with sex. And people need to remember that being sex positive doesn't just mean I'm walking around with vibrators. It means talking about sex. I would say Mike P., who's a virgin, is sex positive because he was able to communicate about sex openly. Great. So we shared over here, let me go to the next screen here, the RAINN page where people can seek help. RAINN, RAINN.org. And National Sexual Assault Hotline, free, confidential, 24/7. I think to sort of summarize, there is a person willing to talk. There's a person willing to listen. If anyone feels like they are alone, in most cases, regardless of what your circumstances are, you're not alone. It can feel isolating, but there's always somebody you can call. If you can't reach out to friends, 1-800-656-HOPE. Or you can chat now. This is great. They have an option where you can just chat if you don't feel like or want to talk to some human on the phone. You can actually talk to someone through instant messenger. And also very interesting was, on a side note, that Blake Moynes shared this Glamour article here. Of course, he hasn't made an entrance yet on the show, but he's been a champion of Katie's plight, which we love to see. We'll have to see what that means moving forward for them. There's really no way to know. We'll just have to see how it plays out. I am rooting for Blake. And yeah, as Katie said, being sex positive is not about carrying vibrators around. It's about understanding that a lot of people were raised in a world where parents didn't talk to us about sex. We didn't get healthy conversations with our mom or our dad or other people in our families because there's some tabooness. There's this Puritan culture in a lot of parts of our societies that's just like don't ask, don't tell. I mean, it's just a strange world we live in. A lot of sex education is don't, and that doesn't help anybody. So it's wild that we have to consider The Bachelor to be a family show. It is on ABC, which is owned by Disney. Is it a family show? I mean, it's a show that creates families or is in the process of trying to do that, but I wouldn't call it a family show at all. But it is a place where we should be having conversations with regards to relationships, dating, and your intimate life and all that. So for Katie to be out there having this conversation, it just really goes to show that she's got some dimension to her that's above just the girl who brought a vibrator onto the show. We're starting to unpack that and see that she's had to take leaps to overcome her own issues in the past. And the more we get to see that, the more we build empathy and our hearts break and go out for Katie for what she's been through and everyone else that's been in either similar situations or situations where they felt like they were alone. Of course, RAINN.org. You can go over there, leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. A big shout out to all the ladies and gentlemen in my Discord chat. There's a bunch of people having great conversations about just sharing. We in the live stream last night, just sharing their own personal stories and just sort of bonding in a way that is very good to see that this show has inspired that. Because as we know, the Bachelor franchise can inspire the worst out of people. It can really be a toxic place, but in some cases, and hopefully more so moving forward, it becomes a place where we share these stories. My next video is going to be about Michael A. and his late wife, the charity he set up in her honor. I'm sure it'll be a little sad, but it is inspiring to know that love can exist, and how Katie actually promoted his late wife's charity. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then also a TikTok calling out a Connor, another TikTok. So Ref Dave is going to have to come out and officiate this TikTok to see who's in the right, who's the asshole, who's not. And if anyone wants any more content, of course, I've got my private Patreon community here. We're up to like 117 members. I posted this live stand-up set from the Patreon. I'll play you a 20 seconds out of context clip right now.
Not to mention, now he's got a Boston accent. That ruins the quote. Hey, go confidently in the direction of your dreams, kid. Live the life you have imagined, your cocksucker. Like, what? Yeah, for when you simplify your life, the laws of the universe begin simpler. Now, somebody give me a Dunkin' Donuts, I got a shit in a bucket, right? The fuck's going on with that
All right, there's a clip from my set. The spotlight was not on, as you can see. It was an outdoor show, so it was a ton of fun. If you want to go listen and need a laugh, that's a place you can do that. There's also tons of other live stream content and other videos over there. And if you want to check out, I didn't post this. Let me see if I can find this. If you want to check out my video that I make every episode with Tasha, we've got Tasha's Take, which is, let me click, there it is, Tasha's Take, which is her fashion video, breaking down the fashion from week 3. So we talked about Caitlin Bristow's cocktail dress, Tasha's dress, Katie Thurston's outfit that she wore on the one-on-one date, her group date outfit, and her cocktail dress. So if you want to check that out, it's actually kind of fun. It's been a fun bonding time for my fiance Tasha and I. She's, of course, got decades of fashion experience working as a fit model in the fashion industry and having gone to design school. So we talk a lot about that, and she shares some ways that Tasha shares some ways that you can find clothing that resembles the very expensive clothes they're wearing on the show, but at a fraction of the price. So she'll share some of that info. You can go over to Tasha's page, Tasha Courtney, on YouTube, and go check that out. That week 3 Bachelorette fashion recap is up right now. I'll post a link in the description if you want to go check that out. And thank you guys so much for being so kind and respectful in the comment sections. You guys really have showed that the internet's not always a bunch of people, spewing out all their hate. It actually can be a place where we communicate and share love and respect to each other. I appreciate you guys so much for that. So thank you in advance for all of that love and positive energy you've given both me and Katie and everyone else on this show. You guys have been fantastic, and more content to come. All right, have a good one. See you in a little bit.